Don't allow anything traumatic in your life to control you. Don't let it bring you down. You can get through it. We've gotten through it and we're not even done. I'm 42 years old. My plan is to have 5 shops in the next 3 years. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. And no matter if I go into a Mexican prison, I lose a child, my family member gets hurt, or whatever happens, employee almost dies, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to do it.
Thank you everyone for joining us here today on another episode of the Lift Your Shop podcast. We have another amazing guest. We have Matt Hoage from OneWay Automotive there in Ardmore, Oklahoma. He's going to be sharing with us a little bit about perseverance and overcoming that, and both on the personal side of things, but also how that can relate to business and overcoming that at your shop. Because I know we'll never only experience highs. There obviously there will be lows, and it's important to be able to come out of those. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Glad to be here. Happy to do this. Yep.
Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing with us how you got started in this industry, and we'll go from there.
All right. So yeah, I was exposed to the industry roughly around 17 years old as I was trying to get a job. So I was hired as a helper at a shop in Antioch, California. And at that time, I was just a helper. So I still remember the first job I was helping them with, which was a transmission replacement on a Corvette. I'm sure it was mid 90s or late 90s Corvette model. So yeah, that's how I got exposed to it.
Awesome. What then eventually took you over to Oklahoma, starting a shop? How did that all begin?
That's a long story, but I was born and raised in California, and I've currently been in Oklahoma for 8 years now. In 2014, I moved out here, and part of the discussion today, I'll definitely get into that, how that worked out. But that's, yeah, so born and raised all my life in California, and a lot of my life with my kids and my wife and my professional life was there. And then, like I said, about 8 years now in Oklahoma.
Awesome. That's super cool. Why don't we just get right into the meat and bones of what we're talking about here, kind of perseverance. Okay. So I know you have some stories and experiences to share with us. So why don't you go ahead and kind of share some of those things and how you overcame them?
For sure. So if I may, I want to share why you and I met, and I think why we're doing this today. Meeting you, Kelsey, was a really good experience. We had discussed marketing efforts and different things that you guys offer in your profession, and going through that process naturally was a good experience, and I learned a lot about you and what you offer. But something happened during that time when you and I spoke, and you asked diligently, hey, when can I follow up with you? And so that's expected and to be normal. But I shared with you how that wasn't going to be the case over the next couple of weeks because of a circumstance that was arising, which was we were going to be releasing our foster child that we've had for 2.5 years to her biological mother. And I just probably wasn't going to be in a good place. And I just felt like that it wasn't a good time. So during that time, your one and only true Kelsey here, he shared some serious emotion that I did not expect. I was sharing with you just my situation, and you really took it to heart. And it meant a lot to me. That into itself was really impactful to me. And then lo and behold, to the audience here, Kelsey reached out to me that evening and said something to me that really meant a lot. And he messaged me on Messenger on Facebook and said, my wife and I have been talking about this, and we just feel really inclined to help you. And we want to send you and your baby girl on a daddy-daughter date. And naturally, being the humble person that I am, or at least I try to be humble, I couldn't accept the money. And so I told him that, and life went on for a little while. But guys, it just meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me that Kelsey was human, that he wasn't just a salesperson trying to get my business. And so from there, we discussed the things we talked about. And Kelsey said, man, I sure would love to get you on a podcast or recorded so that we can share your story. So that's what we're going to do today from my end. And I would love for your interjection at any point, Kelsey, because I definitely don't want to derail. I want to stay focused. But what I mentioned to Kelsey, and I think what he'll hopefully title this as, is perseverance through trauma. And that's what this is about to me. There's been a lot of things that have happened in my life that has inspired me, hurt me, made me cry, made me mad, all the above. And I think the most humanistic thing I want to do right here is be able to relate to anybody that is going through some situational issues in their life, whether it be traumatic or just something that they just feel like they can't get through or can't relate to or whatever. So we're going to rewind a little bit as to who I am and what my DNA is, because that all started as a young man, really not being guided and having no clue what in the world I was going to do in this life we have. Early on as a teenager, I witnessed my dad in the Navy. He was in the United States Navy. And as a little guy, and especially loving my father exponentially and just being so inspired by him and whatnot. Of course, my family was a split family. At 7 years old, my family split apart. So anytime I was around my father, it was really good time. But I got to witness him be in the Navy. Boy, let me tell you how cool that was as a little guy. And I got to see him in his uniform. I got to go on the aircraft carriers by his escort.
Oh, nice.
When we would go on the aircraft carrier, because he was an officer in the Navy, they would do a little whistle, and it's like this, I'm going to botch it. And they say, announcement, Commander Lawrence Hoage, or whatever they say, and boarding. So it was really cool. It was this little guy, and I'm like, yeah, that's my dad. He's taking us on this ship. Everybody's saluting him, and it was really cool. So in my teenage years, it was always an inspiration to me to join the Navy. And my grandfather was in World War II in the Army. My great-grandfather came from Portugal and was in the Navy, in the United States Navy. So military was there. We are very much military family. So my decision was I was going to join the Navy. As life goes on and we as men, we start getting attracted to women and all that kind of stuff. I met my now wife, and at the time was my girlfriend, obviously. And I thought, no, we've got to get married. We can't do this. We got to get married. And I had to break the news to my dad. I told him I wasn't going to the Navy. That was not a good conversation.
Yeah.
That happened. And so during that time, we dated and we decided to get married. And of course, my parents thought I was stupid. I was only 20 years old when I got married. My wife was 18
Wow.
when we got married. So we were very young. And we had no direction, no college education, no real good job, no place to live. It was just like, yeah, we're going to get married. Why not? So very much had no direction in what we were doing. From the time of me being a teenager, probably around 16 to the age of 24 years old, I probably had 25 plus jobs. I could not keep my focus. I was just all over the place. I'd either quit or I'd get fired or whatever. I was looking for more money or whatever. And that was creating a lot of instability with my wife and also with my daughter. I had my first daughter, my first child, at the age of 22. And so during this time, I'm trying to figure out life, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I created a lot of instability in their lives, and obviously a lot of low confidence from my wife. She couldn't trust what I was doing. So I was inspired by going to a graduation ceremony of my brother, who is 4 years younger than I, and he decided to join the Marine Corps. So I went to this graduation ceremony and I saw him graduate, and I thought, now that is what I need to do. That's what's going to get me excited. I have to do that. And so there was a lot of me in that timeline that was regretting not being in the military because that is something I wanted to do. But now I'm married, I have a child. It didn't seem like it wasn't possible. But when I saw my brother graduate, I was just so inspired, and I was very persistent about getting that done. I joined the Marine Corps. And actually, I have to back up a little bit because before I got married, my parents decided to move, and my wife and I were dating at the time. And we were very undirectional. I wanted to say this point because I had a scholarship to go to the Toyota Tech, and I didn't end up doing that. So I just wanted to put that in there that, again, I created this instability for her, and we had to figure it all out. So fast forward, we got married, and then I joined the Marine Corps. So I joined the Marine Corps at 24 years old, and that was something. We felt like we had a good direction there. Joined the Marine Corps at 24 years old, and that was hard because we had to separate. We had to be apart from each other. So Marine Corps was 3 months of boot camp where I didn't get to see her. And then after boot camp, I got to see her. By the way, when I was in boot camp, I went in at 212 pounds and I came out at 170 pounds. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
I was like a totally different person, I was so skinny though. I looked like an anorexic cancer patient. Like, it was pretty bad, but nobody recognized me. A funny little story and maybe a little extra, but I tend to want to tell people this. I lost so much weight, and in boot camp, you don't get to see yourself. You don't get to look in a mirror or anything like that. You get a little mirror where you can shave your face, and that's about all you get. So all this time I lost this weight. I finally fast forward 3 months later, and I see my wife for the first time, and we've not been together, so we'd like to be together. So we go to the hotel room, and we're just hanging out, and I wanted to see myself. So I stood in front of that mirror for probably about 30 minutes with nothing on. And I was just like in super awe of, I'm like, are you kidding me? There's nothing left of me. Or she's over there, come on, get out here. But anyway, this is fun. But
Yeah, that's awesome.
So has nothing to do with the trauma. But anyway, yeah, just being in the Marine Corps was tough. Being in that environment, having to prove myself to others, all this stuff, it was tough. And I got deployed twice. So I was deployed twice to Iraq. This was 2005 was my first deployment. And I was actually telling someone earlier, one of the hardest parts about being deployed was simply just being away from my family.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that was really tough. I said goodbye to my wife, I said goodbye to my daughter, and I said goodbye to my dad. And frankly, that was the hardest part, saying goodbye to my dad. As I give him a hug, I literally thought, this will be the last time I hug my dad. And because you just don't think you're coming back. But this was the commitment I made. So I went. Thank God I came back. And I think it was roughly 11 months later, I deployed again to Iraq. And that was tough. And all during that time, I felt like there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else for me. And I always was inspired by business and success and the entrepreneur spirit, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I went through the 5 years of my commitment in the Marine Corps. It taught me a lot. It taught me a lot of how to get it done. No quitting attitude. The core values in the Marine Corps are honor, courage, and commitment. And today in my business, we apply core values of our own, which are honesty, integrity, and customer satisfaction. It was really important to me to learn a lot of things that I learned in the Marine Corps to be able to be the successful or soon to be successful person that I am today. And a lot of those traits really helped me out. But again, during that time, I just thought there's got to be something else. I had sat with a sergeant major at the time, and we did a Bible study when I was deployed in Iraq the second round. And we sat with him every week. And I told him, Sergeant Major, there's just something. I feel like one day I'm going to have a lot of money. And I don't know why. And he said, that's nice. He goes, but how are you treating the money that you currently have? So it was a little bit of a check at that moment, right? Yeah. And it's still a check today to know, okay, I got to treat that money correctly. But all that time spent in the military, and looking at my notes here, I apologize. But look, all that time spent in the military, deploying twice to Iraq. By the way, the second time I deployed to Iraq was very difficult because my son was just born. So he was just born, and then 1 month, not even 3 weeks or 1 month later, I left to Iraq.
Wow.
And that was really challenging to leave him and leave my wife in that condition and state. That was a pretty tough time. Yeah, just looking through here, right around that 4-year mark, 4.5-year mark, I thought to myself, I've got to get out. I've got to move on and do something else. It was not the popular idea in my family. And my wife really wanted me to stay in there because all the instability I had taught her in the beginning, she just did not like the idea of me not having that stability, that very consistent paycheck that she could count on. So I told her I was getting out, and I'm not going to do what you want. I'm getting out. And so that was a pretty tough time. And during that time of us getting out, we decided to buy a house. And my salesman and attitude that I have, and I still think I can sell ice to an Eskimo, I sold her on the idea by buying a home. I told her I will not sell this house for 5 years. At least 5 years, it will stay here. And if we ever do anything different, we have to make $100,000 cash, or we have to rent this thing out. Those are my things that I tried to give her confidence that we were going to be consistent, stay consistent. And that kind of unfolds here after a little while. That's what I told her, and that's what we did. And I'm looking here, sorry. One of the things that still motivates me today is something that she told me. And I told her I was getting out. And she said, Matt, when you get out, you're going to fail. And when you fail, I won't be there to help you. Now, I tell you that because not to think any which way about my wife, but it has inspired me all the time to keep pushing and to keep driving myself and to never give up. And to always prove to my wife and others that I can do this, that I'm not going to fail her. So that was a big deal at that time, and I've never forgot it. I got out in 2009. Here we are in 2022, and I'll never forget that till the day I die. But so that was just something that was pretty impactful to me. During that time, I got a job immediately in the heating and air conditioning world and residential. I immediately was making good money as a helper in the heating and air industry. I was making $1,200 a week, and I thought, man, I'm making it. But it was really good getting out of the military, especially when you're only making $900 to $1,200 every 2 weeks. So it was good for me. And I quickly accelerated in promotions and started making more money and things like that. But I was not a steward of my money. I was not good with it. I was just blowing it off, buying stuff, going out to eat all the time. And but during this whole time, again, I thought, man, there's got to be something else. I'm destined for something more. I can't just be working this job. I've got to be in my own business. I had no clue what I was going to do. I had been a mechanic. I joined the Marine Corps to be an aviation diesel mechanic. I had done the heating and air conditioning. I was always good in my hands. I just didn't know what I was going to do, none of which I was really passionate about. So again, just always had this thing in my mind. There's something else. I've got to do something else, that I'm destined for something else, right?
Yeah.
So during that time, having my own, I eventually progressed to having my own business. I got into a position where the company I was working for didn't have any more work for me. I was commission based, doing heating and air conditioning. They didn't have any more work. There was this unforeseen amount of time. And I'm like, I can pay my bills. So I went ahead and quit. And then literally the next day started a handyman business. So I started this handyman business. It took off pretty quick. I was doing pretty good. I think first year we cycled in $250,000 in our business, which to me was amazing. Didn't get to keep a lot of it, but it looked cool.
Yeah.
But that's what happened there. And then during this time, again, just wasn't a good steward of my money and wasn't able to save. And we got ourselves into some debt situations and finally had to file bankruptcy. So we filed bankruptcy, and that was a mess. It took so much time. They threatened me with putting me in jail because they thought I was lying about stuff. And it was very traumatic during that time. I was just very stressed out, but I was ready to move on in life. I filed bankruptcy. And during that time, we decided we're done with California. This lifestyle I had, worked 7 days a week, weren't making enough money, very stressed out, had 3 kids by this time. No, yeah, I guess I did have 3 kids at that time. And it was just really stressful. And we decided that we wanted to get out of there. I actually do want to back up a little bit, something I forgot to mention. Before all the bankruptcy and things like that, we had our 3rd child. And so when we had our 3rd child, my wife had very bad pregnancies with all our kids. This pregnancy was not anything different. She was having a bad pregnancy. So she had what we call, or what they call, cholestasis. And what that is a failure of the liver, and allows bile acids to get in the womb. Well, they were telling us we were going to have a dead baby if we don't take the baby early. And so they had already put a predetermined an early date to induce her pregnancy or do a C-section in this case. And I believe that was about 1 month prior to her actual due date. But lo and behold, my little guy came out a month and a half early. So her water broke and we had to get to the emergency room and we got her taken care of. Well, because he was a month and a half early, he was not doing good. And again, very traumatic situation. Seeing my wife being in the emergency room like that, and then now birthing this child who's really tiny. I think he was 5 pounds, 13 ounces or something like that, very tiny, which means it probably would have been a 10-pound baby had he went full term, right?
Yeah.
But this guy was on life support, and we were in the NICU for about a month. And I've got pictures of him with all that stuff on his face, and it was really tough. And all this meanwhile, I had to work, and I had to take the kids back for school, and I'm going all over the place. And again, this just added for the traumatic experiences plus the stress. It was a lot of stress. So I wanted to make sure I touched on that. But then again, fast forward, we decided we're done. We wanted to get out of California. We had to file bankruptcy. We didn't really know what we were going to do. Well, During that time, my wife, her parents said, hey, come out to Oklahoma, be a youth pastor for us at this church. And so this was a really wild idea for me. I'm going through this bankruptcy. I'm not certain what's going to happen there. They're trying to convince us to come out to Oklahoma. I like the idea because I want to get away, but didn't really know how it's going to unfold. This is all around 2013 is when this kind of occurred. And the market's starting to go up. We saw our house prices going up, but I couldn't do anything because I was in bankruptcy. And if I had sold the house during that bankruptcy, they would have taken all that money.
Yep.
It was just a God thing, man. We prayed and prayed, and we were pushing for our purpose of making the money, but we were stuck in this bankruptcy. And thank God we got out of the bankruptcy, and there's a whole story behind that, but I won't bore you in that. And when we decided to list the house, I told my realtor, I said, I'm only going to list this house if we make $100,000 in this house. Mind you, this was right about 5 years when this all occurred. So 5 years ago, I told my wife, we won't do this until 5 years. We've lived for 5 years. This was not planned. So this is all coming full circle.
Yeah.
And, but I told my realtor, I will not sell this house for anything less than $100,000 that comes in my pocket. He's like, all right, I'm not sure how we're going to get that done because it's a little bit overpriced, but I'll list it for that. We ended up getting appraisal. The appraiser came in. He says, you realize that your client over improved this house. He's no way he's going to get what he's asking for it. I know, but look at this, look at that, trying to convince him. And appraisal came back and it listed, or excuse me, his appraisal was exactly what we were trying to sell the house for. And I'm like, wow, that's really awesome. Moving forward, we hadn't even put it on the market yet, but my realtor knew that there was someone interested. So he's telling me about it. He says, well, do you think he's interested in my house? He says, well, I think it's a little too overpriced for him. I'll show him anyway. Lo and behold, he falls in love with the house. He tells his wife, you got to come see this house. She drives a whole hour, comes sees the house. They fall in love with it. Long story short, we sell the house and we make exactly $100,000 in our pocket. So it's just really amazing because to this day, I live my life by two scriptures. One is faith without works is dead. And then the other is speak those things that are not as if they are. So I spoke it into existence. I believe that God was going to allow us to get this done, and we got it done. And again, God allowed me to get it done. But so that was just a really cool time in our lives. It wasn't traumatic, even though it was coming from a traumatic situation, and we were able to get through it and persevere. And then we were successful out of it. All that being said, we decided to move to Oklahoma. And moving here, I thought I was going to do something else because all this time I'm doing heating and air conditioning, I'm remodeling homes, handyman work. I thought, I'm going to move to Oklahoma. I'm going to buy all these cheap little houses for $15,000, $20,000, $30,000, which was unreal to me coming from California. I'm going to flip these houses, and that's what I'm going to do. And I came here and I bought a few rentals with this money, and I quickly went through that money, but it wasn't too much of a waste. I actually did buy real estate. I know a lot of people go for that money, but we did that. And then I bought a flip house. This took way too long and everything. It just, the market out here was just so different. So during this time, I think, man, what are we going to do? I can't just sit around. So I decided to start this auto repair business. And that was unique because I told myself before I joined the Marine Corps, I'd never, ever go back in the automotive space. So here I am 8 years later. But so during this time, I actually partnered with somebody, and we partnered. He was the kind of worker mechanic guy, and I was going to be the business guy because I knew so much about it. Not true. That's how we were going to do this. Uh-huh. And during that time, we spent about a year together, and then he decided he was going to get distracted. He was having an affair on his wife. And again, going into a really precarious situation and not very fun. But I discovered this, and we had a very stern conversation. And long short, he decided to exit the business. And so I bought his equity out. And during that time, I thought, I'm not making much money at all. I think I was like making $1,200 every 2 weeks, all of which I was building a house and I'm doing all this other stuff. And I'm thinking, how in the world am I going to pay for my bills? I don't know how this is going to happen. But I was making a little bit of money, and I thought, that's working. So how do I get this done? I went on the Google web and decided to search how to run a successful automotive repair shop. And I was exposed to Management Success at the time. Now they're called Drive. And I was exposed to them, and I got involved with them, and they showed me some good things, and then quickly progressed through that. And now I'm currently with Shop Fix Academy. But anyway, point is it was working, right? And during that time, I thought, I got to make this happen. And I had one employee sorry, I'm looking through my notes here. So I had one employee at that time. And so I was running the front and he was running the back. He was just doing mechanicing. And it was going okay. We weren't making a ton of money. I think probably like $20,000, $30,000 a month, a good month. And it was just working. He ended up getting sick. And this kind of goes into all this just issues that would constantly come up. You've heard from the past during the Marine Corps and trying to get here to Oklahoma. We didn't know that was part of the plan because I always thought I'd never move to Oklahoma. That's a crazy place. I'd never go there. But now we're in Oklahoma and we're trying to run this business and actually make it work. So I'd say like the first business episode or personal episode during business was him getting sick, and he was out. And by this time we've got customers expecting to help them and things like that. And I had to run the front and the back and nobody was willing to help me. So I was it. And that happened for about 2 weeks. And some of you may not think that's really that big of a deal, but it was tough. I'm a new business owner. I didn't know what I was doing, especially being 12 years away from the automotive industry from the late 90s to early 2000s. And now fast forward to 2014, I haven't touched a car ever since. It was quite a huge difference.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure it out. So he got sick and then finally came back. During that time, we actually decided to move the shop. So we realized this is working. We want to do a little bit more business and we decided to move the shop. So traumatic or not, that was tough, moving the shop. That was a tough time. And in all this time, I didn't market at all. I had no marketing experience. I didn't do anything. It was all word of mouth. So around that time before we moved, I think we maxed out our year at $197,000. No, excuse me. The last year in that small little shop was $265,000. And we moved the shop. And so the only thing we did was move the shop. It was a much better corner where we're currently located. And that first year of after moving the shop, again, no marketing whatsoever, we went to $404,000. So it was a pretty huge jump just moving the shop. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was definitely a motivator. And I'd love to talk about numbers and things, and maybe I can incorporate some of that as I go on, but I really want to just mostly touch on the traumatic stuff that's happened and how and where we're at today. So as we progressed in that, moving the shop, we couldn't keep really a lot of employees. And I'm in Ardmore, Oklahoma. This is the southern area of Oklahoma. It's 100 miles north of Dallas. It's 100 miles south of Oklahoma City. Our community is roughly 26,000 people. We've probably got 45,000 people within the county. It's a little bit tough. I know there's a lot of businesses out there in communities that are only 500 people or 3,500 people. And perhaps you have your own struggles with employees, but this area is pretty tough. We got a lot of drug influence and a lot of things that kind of prevent people from wanting to work. So we just had this constant revolving door of employees. And that, as everyone knows, that is very traumatic and it's very tough to kind of get through that. During that time, we had a service advisor, a female service advisor, and I thought she was doing pretty good. I knew that she had a past, again, drug influenced, and she had gotten in trouble, but she was doing a pretty good job and we were happy to have her. But having her there, she had her past kind of catch up to her. She ended up getting arrested 2 different times at my business place with customers in there. So that was very embarrassing and also traumatic. We're going to go with that theme. So it was traumatic into itself. Sadly, after the second time of her being arrested, she wasn't able to come back to be an employee. I told her she wasn't going to be able to come back. She understood, but sadly, she actually died. She overdosed on drugs and it was a sad deal. So I felt drawn to her family and her and everything like that. It was trying to be there for them. It was a very sad time. So again, experiencing that in our business was pretty tough. But shortly after that, this is where things get a little bit dark. They get a little deep. And I'm just going to be very transparent with everybody. Because again, if I can relate to anybody out there, there's an opportunity where you can see anything through my story that inspires you or motivates you to get through something. Or if you want to touch base with me or even Kelsey, I think both of us are absolutely willing to do that. During this time, I had hired another employee, a couple of them, and things were moving, they were going, and we're doing pretty good. But we learned that my daughter had actually been raped. And during this time, it was really tough. I felt like a failure as a father. I had to confide in one of my employees because he was the only person that I really trusted at that time. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. So it really brought me backwards in the business and my personal life as a father. I felt like I failed my daughter. Naturally, I wanted to kill the other individual. And it was really tough to get through that kind of stuff too, to think about it, because I'm now in the community. I'm up on that limelight. All I could think about was getting arrested and spending time in jail. And I just knew that was not the right thing to do. So I didn't do anything about that. The recovery through my daughter, that was really tough. I think it's been 5 years, and she actually told me the other day that she just forgave what she calls her rapist. So about 2 3 months ago, she says she literally forgave him. And she has a huge peace about that now. So it's taken all this time for her to work through that. And it didn't happen to me, but it happened to us as a family unit.
Yeah.
And so it was really tough. And what I did do, though, is I reacted by pulling out my kids from high school. There were other things that were going on with my two boys and things like that. And I just thought, you know what? We're not doing this. The influences, all this stuff, we decided to pull them out. So again, all this stuff was just really tense, really a dark time, very tough to put the smile on when you come to work every day and having to talk to your customers, knowing all this stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And how do you do that? How do you literally have one face and then turn on the face? And so it was really tough, but we pulled them out of school. We felt that was the right thing for us to do, to be able to bring them into the family unit, really try to make sure that our family values, our Christian principles were being instilled in our kids. And thank God that was the right decision. And to this day, my daughter did graduate from homeschool, and my two boys are still in homeschool. Undetermined what will happen in the near future, but we're very thankful for what we did there. Yeah, that was pretty tough. And not to mention, my wife was pretty mad about pulling the kids out of school because she didn't want to have to homeschool them.
Yeah.
But she did, and we worked together on that. So we fast forward a little bit more after going through that. It was a normal day at work. My guys in the back, I don't know about other guys and how they allow their employees to have fun, but my guys were having fun most of the time. They would throw little firecrackers at each other. They do funny jokes and whatever.
Yeah.
You name it, they probably did it. And I would hear all this chaos in the back, and it was just not that big of a deal because I thought they're just goofing off. We're still making money. We're having a good time. But I had a customer in front of me, and I was writing service at the time. And she was looking out our door, which had a window, and she says, "I think one of your guys is stuck underneath the car." And I did hear all this noise, and in turn, it was screaming. But I just thought they were goofing off. So I jump out of the chair, I run to the door, and sure enough, one of my guys is pinned underneath the car. And I run out there, and then suddenly I am presented with a huge puddle of blood. It's just everywhere. And I'm like, what in the crap just happened? Of course, I wasn't being Christian at that moment. I'm probably cussing and swearing, but I don't remember. And so I'm like freaking out. What in the heck is what happened? And I just remember seeing this other employee racing around because he had to try to get the car off of my employee. And what had happened is my employee that was crushed under the car, thank God he's alive, but he was doing struts on the Suburban. He was done with the vehicle. He set the vehicle on the ground, but he forgot the two strut bolts that go to the lower control arm on both sides. So he thought a simple solution is just crawl underneath the vehicle real quick. I'll zip those bolts in real quick and it'll be done. Unfortunately, the strut was not lined up with the control arm. He used a pry bar, and then that strut came unloaded on the control arm, and then the cross member on the Suburban pinned his head to the ground. And it actually cracked around his ear, around here on his skull, and then it cracked his eye socket. And he's on blood thinners, and the trauma that created to his head, the blood was literally just pumping out of his nose every heartbeat. He's laying on the ground. I'm freaking out. Marine Corps came back to me and stop the bleeding, stop the bleeding. I decided to try to plug his nose. Not sure why I thought of that, but I thought that's stupid. That's not going to help because it's just going to clog up in his head. So I'm laying there. I run, get ice packs. I'm trying to help him out, gauze, ice on his nose and his face. I wanted to see the other side of his head because I literally thought it was crushed. And I leaned him a little bit. I looked underneath. There was this bloodline and all this mess on the side. And I laid him back down, and I didn't say anything to him because I didn't want to freak him out, but I thought his head was crushed. I really did. And I thought we were losing him right then and there. I thought he was dying. And we immediately called it 911. We got the ambulance coming. He wanted me to call his wife, so I called his wife, yelling at her, go to the emergency room. She's freaking out because she doesn't understand what's going on. And then his name is Matt Bell. And he looks up at me laying on the ground. He says, Matt, please pray for me. I do not want to die. It just broke me. I'm just crying right there. And it just gets me emotional thinking about it. I'm just praying for him and crying right there. And it was traumatic. Like I'm freaking out. And thank God the ambulance came and they took him and put him in the back of the ambulance. And all my staff and everybody just standing there. What just happened? We're just in this total blank. What do we do? What happened? We don't know if he's going to be alive. We don't know what's happening to him at the moment of him leaving. And so we started deciding to call our customers, let them know we're done. We're not doing anything for you for the rest of the day. We apologize. We'll be back with you another day. We went back out to the shop. I'm pressure washing the blood out of the shop. It was bad. And I just remember calling a friend of mine. Some of you might know Brandon Cruchet. He's in Yukon, Oklahoma, has a shop called Brotherhood Garage. And I called him. He's a former Marine. I'm a former Marine. We just relate to each other. And I'm just bawling on the phone, talking to him. And he confided in me and he calmed me down and trying to help me and stuff like that. But I didn't know what to do. Here, we're just trying to operate a business. And this guy's about to lose his life. And so that was really tough. Long story short, $97,000 was the bill for all that. Thank God he was alive. It did create trauma to his head. Today, he doesn't have as much of short-term memory. So he has to write everything down, but he's full functioning and he's happy spirits. And he too has a completely different perspective on life, let me tell you. Okay. So that was like really tough. And again, that happened shortly after what had happened to my daughter. And it was just like, is this enough? Yeah, fast forward out of that. We functioned in business, kept on moving, we persevered. Matt Bell actually decided to give me his notice because he didn't want to be not fulfilling his dreams in life because he realized how short life could be. So he gave his notice and he wanted to be in his own construction business and he moved on. We had hired some other people and trying to keep moving. My wife and I decided to go on vacation. So we went on vacation, enjoying ourselves and whatnot. While on vacation, we get notice that some of our staff is quitting. They're leaving. And this is not what you want to hear when you're on vacation. Because vacation mode, that just went away. And we hear about this going on. And when I came back from vacation, I lost my entire crew. Everybody pulled away, except for the service advisor that was up front. And I'm just like, how in the crap am I going to be able to handle this? And this wasn't short after Matt Bell left and the head trauma. So put my bootstraps on, persevered and kept going. My service advisor stayed up front. I went in the back and started turning wrenches and scrambling, trying to run a business at the same time. Still trying to get these cars out, still trying to make my customers happy. I'm not an A technician. This is not my passion. And still trying to get all this stuff done. I quickly hired somebody as a helper. He did give me a little buffer, and that was really helpful to feel relieved. And then at the same time, keep pushing. And then shortly after that, we hired a foreman, which was such a godsend because I felt so much pressure. He was an A technician and he took so much pressure off of me. But it didn't stop there because the foreman and my service advisor really didn't get along. And so my service advisor just pulled chocks and he left. So I went from the back to what I thought I was going to start running the business to then running service. And we just had this really huge back and forth slinky going on. I went and started writing service and started hiring some more people and things like that. We got back to somewhat of a normal. Yeah, all this is happening. And then it was the first part of COVID, right about January, February, my wife, she says, we've got to foster this baby girl. And I'm like, you're dumb. We're not doing that. I am not doing fostering. It's not happening. I go to a Shop Fix Academy conference and I'm in the total business mindset. And my wife and I talk on the phone one day and she says, we have to make a decision. This has to happen right now if we're going to do it. I didn't want to do it. And I was talking to Brandon Crochet, the buddy I mentioned to you, and another guy about all this stuff. And they basically told me, Matt, you're kind of being a pompous ass, man. You probably should support your wife and do this. Okay. So I decided to call my wife and, okay, babe, I support you. You've supported me all these years, all this crap that I've brought you through, all this nonsense that I've done with you, and you've supported me all these years. I'm going to support you. But I'm not going to be much help. Just know that. Boy, was I stupid, right? But so we decided to foster, okay? And we go about a year or so into this, year and a half, and I lose my staff again. I didn't lose everybody, but I lost most of my mechanics, and I kept my service advisor at that time. It was a female. Her name is Jonte. And I kept her. She did a great job. It was all good, but I had to go back in the back and work again. And so I had to rehire some more technicians and keep this thing going. But I did have one technician that stayed with me during that time. And of course, this is all COVID. And anyway, so there was another time where this technician is working away and he and another technician are working on this vehicle. He wants to get a fuel sample. He made a mistake by doing it the way he did it. So don't, all the audience that chimes in here, these like really professional mechanics, don't chime in and tell me how wrong we were to do this fuel test the way we did it. But he did it. I didn't make this decision. Okay. But he was working over this Ford engine and he was cracking the fuel line over the engine compartment. I know it's not the right way to do it, but the other technician bumped the starter or he bumped the starter on accident and it ignited the fuel by the spark plugs. So my technician has hovered over the engine. There's a fire just flamed into his face and his arms. He had gotten fuel all over his arms and his arms were on fire. So it singed his whole face with his hair and all this stuff. And looking back in the security cameras, he literally rolled off the car like a big blob and hit the ground. And his arms are on fire and he's getting up and he's just trying to wipe his arms off and everything like that, which was a mistake too, because what do? You're in this situation where he's on fire. You just want the fire out, but it actually took his skin and started peeling his skin backwards. And my other technician, they're running in the store and in the front rather, where's the fire extinguisher? Freaking out. I'm like, what? You guys are just jacking with me. No, it's for real. We got to put this fire out. So I run out there, I get the fire extinguisher, I put the fire out on the truck, the floor, there's fuel everywhere, and it damaged the truck pretty significantly, but more importantly, my technician was burnt. He's burnt. Here we go again. I took him, went to the ER, tried to get him all squared away. It cost $2,000 just at the ER. And then finally we turned things into workman's comp. By the way, I didn't touch on my head trauma with my other technician. Yes, that was all workman's comp, thank God. So those of you that don't have workman's comp, you better get workman's comp. But anyway, so this happened with this technician. So this is another traumatic situation. It's like, oh my God, is this enough? When is this going to be enough? And so take him to the ER. He's out. We're out with him and not going to have him for a little while. He ended up being out for about 2 months. Around August of 2021, my whole entire staff, including myself, got COVID. Here we go again. And so we had to shut the shop down. I don't know about you guys, but I do not shut the shop down for anything. But my ego was involved in this one. And I'm like, I don't care if I got COVID. I'm going to work. But we had to shut it down. And rightfully, I had to keep my staff safe. I had to keep my customers safe. On the network of Shop Fix Academy, I put a post out there how I shut the shop down. everybody's got COVID and stuff like that. Man, I don't know, whoever's in Shop Fix on this call or whoever has heard about it, it's just a beautiful group of people. And all these people just started chiming in. We got on this big conference call. Everybody's asking how they can help me. I ended up having, let's see, I had a guy from Texas, a guy from California, and a guy from two different shops from Indiana. They sent people out and helped me for 2 weeks.
Wow.
And they just were just a huge blessing, man. We kept the customers happy. We kept the doors open to some degree. More importantly, just getting all this work that was left there and nothing was being done out to our customers. And those of you that had COVID, you have this major brain fog, and I couldn't think for anything. And these guys that were helping me, they were okay with me sitting behind the counter or my desk and just trying to help where I could help. But it was so tough trying to keep up and think of what was what, how we should do it, where we should do it, I didn't know anything that was going on. We persevered through that. And thank God we did, because it was rough. Yeah. But kudos and thank yous to those shops and those shop owners that did that. I was so grateful for them. And again, we're back, we come back into it thinking, okay, here we go. We'll re-ramp up and we'll keep going. Yeah. But all the staff came back okay. I convinced the guy that burnt his arms to come back, because I'm done. I'm not coming back. He came back. He's still with me today. He's an awesome guy. He turns 50, 60 hours a week. I can't complain with that guy. So then we get into another time where my wife and I are planning this trip. We're planning this trip. We paid for it an entire year of this trip to Mexico. And this is actually a trip that was designed around the Shop Fix family, the Shop Fix Academy business and those folks. So it was a conference, but vacation in Mexico. We were going to Punta de Mita. It's on the west coast of Mexico, just about 45 minutes from Puerto Vallarta. So we're super excited. We're just jacked to go out there. Never been to a Four Seasons resort, nor did I ever think, years ago that I could ever afford such a thing. So we're going and we're excited. Pack all our stuff, put it in the car, get down to the Dallas airport. Everything goes really well. Get on the airplane, fly to Puerto Vallarta, get into the airport, and we're just happy to be there. But you got to go through customs. You got to through all the security stuff. All right, whatever. We're doing this. And so we're waiting and waiting. If any of you have been into Puerto Vallarta, you already know. But when you get through customs, there's these little kiosks, and they're just this little button. You push the button, it either turns red or it turns green. If it turns green, you keep going. You go through the airport and c'est la vie. You have fun. If it turns red, you got to send your stuff through this little security X-ray machine. I push the button, mine turns red. Okay, whatever, check my stuff. So they send it through the X-ray machine and they're freaking out. And I'm going, what the heck is going on? I don't know what's going on. Well, they're digging through my stuff. They're trying to find something. I'm like, what is going on? And they said, do you have a pistola? I'm like, no, I don't have a freaking pistol. No, I don't have a gun. And most of them just speak Spanish. There's hardly any English speaking people. They're looking, they see this little, what is it? The thing that holds your phone, the little camera thing that you can hold your phone and take pictures and stuff.
Yeah. The selfie stick thing.
Yeah, selfie stick thing. Yeah. So I think, oh, surely that's what you're talking about. Yeah, that's what it is. And they go back and forth through their X-ray machine and they're looking. Well, they took out my toiletries bag and they opened my toiletries bag. And there is a magazine clip full of 9mm rounds. It's got 17 rounds in this magazine clip. Oh my God, are you kidding me? I had no idea this thing was in there. I was like hyper diligent about checking all my stuff. Uh-huh. When I was at my bathroom sink, I take my toiletries bag out of my bathroom sink and I put it in my suitcase. No, I didn't check it. I checked everything else, but I didn't check my toiletries bag. They arrested me. I'm in Mexico, guys. You don't want to get arrested in Mexico, but I get arrested. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. This is a nightmare right now. Yeah. My wife's freaking out. I'm freaking out. They arrest me. They put me in handcuffs. They take me to the Puerto Vallarta jail. This takes a while because we've got to go to these different places with a medical check and all this other stuff. I've never been arrested. I've never been in trouble my entire life. And this is happening in Mexico. So they arrest me. My wife follows with a taxi cab because they won't allow her in the police car. I never had, excuse me, I never had an opportunity to pay anybody off. I wish I did, but I would gladly gave them any kind of money that they wanted to get out of the situation. But I never had that opportunity. They take me to the Puerto Vallarta jail and excuse me. So I'm sitting there, my wife is with me, we're outside and we're waiting and waiting. We finally try to get to talk to these people that barely speak English. We're trying our best to talk to these people. Long story short, they arrest me and my wife has to leave. I'm in this jail. She leaves. She goes to the resort. Thank God the resort picked her up because we were by ourselves alone. Didn't know really what was going on. We talked to appropriate friends and family and different things like that. I gave my wife my passport. I gave her all the cash. The only thing that I had was my ID. And long story short, they actually kept my ID, never gave it back to me. But they stuck me in this jail. And I was in this jail for 48 hours. Couldn't talk to anybody, couldn't see anybody. There was nobody in this jail cell. I was down this basement in this prison, or excuse me, jail. And the air conditioning was on the entire time. The lights remained on the entire time. No windows, no nothing. I barely got any food. It was pretty tough. And if you guys have never been forced to be alone by yourself like that, it's pretty brutal. I consider myself to be in front of God for 48 hours by myself, and that was rough. It was really rough because I'm freaking out. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to convince them to let me out. They won't let me out. There's no proper communication because no one speaks English. They had let my wife see me one time for 5 minutes, and she brought me some food. I was in handcuffs trying to eat this food and drink some drink or whatever. But then she had to leave. She couldn't stay. By the end of that 48 hours, I was like screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to tell them to let me out. I'm punching the brick wall. I'm freaking out, man. And they're telling me to calm down. You're going to get let out. You're going to get let out. Calm down, calm down. You just need to go see the judge. Their communication was pretty crappy because their judge was in Guadalajara, Mexico, which is 5 hours east. And that's where I was going. They took me and nobody knew what was going on. My wife didn't know what was going on. Everybody thought I was going to get out because they were talking to some attorneys. I didn't realize everybody's talking to these attorneys, but they were talking to these folks. My wife and all these other people think there's something happening, think there's a plan. Little did they know that I'm being transported right now to Guadalajara, Mexico. And they had no idea. Well, I'm in this little tiny Nissan Frontier pickup in the back seat. There's 2 police officers next to me. There's 2 police officers in front of me, handcuffed, sitting there, just totally squeezed. It's super hot, barely no air conditioning. They got the windows down. They're driving like maniacs through the city. It was crazy. It's crazy. Honking their horn, sirens going. I don't know where I'm at. I'm like asking in Spanish, trying to figure out where I'm going, trying to get an idea of orientation in case I got to flee and run through the desert or something like that.
You don't know.
I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
So they tell me we're going east, we're going to Guadalajara. They're trying to show me on the phone, like on a map or something. I finally convinced them to let me call my wife. She didn't think it was me because I first text her on WhatsApp. That's their only communication, by the way, in Mexico, WhatsApp. Yep. So we're texting. She didn't know it was me. I finally called her. She didn't know it was me. She had me talk to someone else. They knew it was me. Then I talked to her and I talked to someone else. And I'm like, no, guys, I'm going to Guadalajara, Mexico right now. They're like, no, they're going to let you out tomorrow. No, I'm going. Oh my God. So everybody's freaking out. They finally get on the phone with their attorneys, or my attorneys, that they had tried to hire and stuff. So all this back and forth, it was just nuts. So I finally get into Guadalajara, Mexico, and I'm in the federal prison now. They put me in the federal prison. So I'm there for 5 days in this federal prison. So a total of 7 days I'm hooked up in jail. And our vacation was only 7 days, by the way. I didn't know I was going to be there for 1 day, 7 days, or 7 years, or 30 years. I had no idea what was going on. I had no clue. Nobody speaks English. Every once in a while, there'd be a prisoner that spoke English, and I try to communicate with them, and they would communicate with others. And then there was a couple guards that were really nice to me, and they let me use Google, which is in Spanish is Google. And I would get on Google Translate, we'd typing it out, and we'd try to communicate that way. But thank God everybody was really nice to me. And my immediate thoughts, I'm in this truck and we're passing this federal or beginning to enter this federal prison. I see razor wire everywhere. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm about to die. I'm about to go in this place. I'm about to get my butt beat to the pole. I'm either going to be taken advantage of, if you know what I mean. And I just was thinking the worst. I did not have a clue what was going to happen. But super prayers, prayer prayers, and thank God there was God there everywhere. And everybody was being super nice to me, very accommodating. But there was no food. You didn't have this regular schedule of food. If you didn't have any money, you didn't have anything. I didn't have a pillow. I didn't have a blanket. Maybe sleep on the concrete floor. There was a 5-gallon bucket in the corner where everybody would pee. And because they didn't let you out to use the bathroom unless it was your like time to get out. Now, of course, you could request and they'd let you out to go to number 2. But this was it, man. I was in this cell with 5 other guys. It was about 5 feet wide by 15 feet long. And I only know that it was about 5 feet wide because I'm 5'11". And when we laid down to sleep, I couldn't lay horizontally. I had to lay linear or
angled. Yeah.
And so I just knew it was really tiny. There's 5 other guys in there. And none of them speak Spanish or English, rather. They only spoke Spanish. I was very intimidated in the beginning, but I had to stand tall and kind of show that I wasn't scared. But this was tough, man. This was really tough. And every time I was let out, I just walked this little courtyard, pray. I was crying. I just had no clue what was going on. Every single day, every hour, whatever. I'm like, can I use the phone? Can I use the phone? Can I use the phone? And I was just a squeaky wheel, man. So I finally got away a few times and I was able to use the phone, trying to figure out what was going on. The U.S. consulate was no help. The embassy was no help. They just referred attorneys for me to hire. That was it. Because of COVID, they couldn't come see me to make sure I was okay. Finally, I was able to talk to this attorney that my wife and them hired. Because remember, I was going to use a public defender. I had no idea. I was told later that had I used the public defender, I would have been there for 30 years. And the reason it was a big deal for these guys is the 9mm round is only for military use. Not to mention, no citizen in Mexico is allowed to have any kind of arms or weapons. So this was just a big deal to them. I should have been there for 3 to 6 months for a pretrial detention. And my sentence probably would have been anywhere from 1 to 5 years of being in this Mexican federal prison. God prevailed, man. And money talked because we hired 3 attorneys and it cost me about $22,000 just for the attorneys. And they got me in front of the judge, and with the plea, they were able to get me out. It was about, it was $500, roughly 10,000 pesos to the Mexican Red Cross that I had to donate. And then they wanted me to check in every single month via email. And I had to hold a newspaper of my local location that proved the date and location. And I had to smile. They said, don't hold it right here and look like a prison photo. They said, hold it right here and smile. So it was just crazy. And thank God I was out of there. But the uncertainty, the craziness of just not being in control of your life at that moment, of not knowing what is going to happen to you, because these people could do whatever they want. They could have thrown the key away and I'd have been lost forever. I thought about never seeing my kids again. I thought about seeing people that would be 80 years old when I get out. Thought about my kids being 30 years old, 40 years old when I get out. How is that going to happen? Are they going to come visit me? How am I going to get money? Maybe my wife will be able to run the business and she can send me money. Like, you imagine these thoughts, and they were going through my head.
Yeah.
I thought I was there for life, and I should have been. But God prevailed in all these people that were helping me out. We didn't have any cash. It was all cash. We had $1,500 with us. And so thankfully, through the ShopFix family, some of these people just ponied up some money. One guy in particular brought $12,200 with him cash, because we caught him before he left the States, and he brought that money, and they all put this big pile of money together and paid all these attorneys and got me out of there.
Wow.
And so I was able to see the resort for 24 hours. And it was probably one of the best 24 hours of my life, because I got to be with my wife. I got to see a beautiful location, even though it was in Mexico, and I had a pretty bad opinion about Mexico at that moment. But I was able to see the ocean and lay on the beach and just really I took 3 showers.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this, but the first 48 hours plus the travel time, I hadn't showered the entire time.
Yeah.
And I these requests, I'm like, can I please take a shower? When you start smelling yourself, that's a bad deal. And I'm a pretty routine person. I like to keep my showers going,
Yeah.
but I didn't have anything to wash with or anything. So thankfully they gave me an opportunity to shower. And my first little meal was a can of tuna. And if you've ever had cans of tuna with beans and corn in it, I had that in Mexico and it was disgusting. But I was so hungry that I had to eat that sucker.
Yeah.
And I'm literally crying with a cracker and tuna and beans and corn every scoop and just crying, putting the stuff in my mouth. And it was just terrible. But anyway, so fast forward, I finally get out. I get to my attorneys. I get released. And I have to mention this because this was traumatic. There was this huge relief, but then it became traumatic again. And the relief was me getting released, finally being washed of these charges in a sense. But they said, well, you don't have your passport, so you got to go to immigration. Oh, come on, man. My attorneys are outside. They're waiting for me. They were taking me to the resort. I'm going to go. No, you're going to immigration. Oh my God. So the exit process was very lengthy. It was very time consuming. And my attorneys are waiting this whole entire time. I don't know where they're at. They don't know where I'm at. And they send me to this immigration. It's in a residential area. They have me handcuffed behind my back. That really hurt because I got bum shoulders. But it was about a half an hour drive. My attorneys are waiting at the prison. They don't know where I'm at. And I'm telling them, I need to call my attorneys. I need to call me. No, you can call when you get to immigration. So I get to immigration. It's 10 o'clock at night. The immigration officer wouldn't let me do anything. He said, no, you're going to bed. Oh my God, this is nuts. And at this point, I'm like, whatever, what's another 24 hours? I'm thinking to myself, surely they'll let me out tomorrow. Surely my attorneys will figure this out. And they send me up to this upstairs where I think I counted like 25 guys in this room, all laid on the ground. And it was this big, huge room where they're caged off. They'd lock me in this room and everybody's snoring. I get this little pad, I lay down on the floor and I'm like, oh my God, what the crap is going on? I try to get some sleep. It didn't happen very well. During the whole entire night, there's another 5-gallon bucket where everybody's going to the bathroom in. This guy gets up, I swear to you, it's at least 10 times every 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. He got up and he was puking in this bucket with all this urine and everything else in there. And he's puking it. And this is probably about 3 to 5 feet away from me. And I'm just like, Lord Jesus, please do not splash on me. It was disgusting. Gosh. And he's hurling this just loud hurl. It was terrible. And we wake up. This other guy speaks English. He's from Australia. He's freaking me out because he's telling me I'm going to be here for 3 months. I'm just freaking out. Thank God my attorneys were smart enough to figure out where I was at. They sent them my passport picture and they let me out. And I squeezed that attorney with just joy, man. I was so happy.
Yeah.
But again, they drove me 5 hours to the coast to be with my wife. Met my wife. We've got that on video, not by my merit, but somebody else recorded it. And it was just such a huge relief. But I was never so thankful to get out of Mexico, man, and to hit U.S. soil, man. It was like I wanted to get down and kiss it. I didn't, but I wanted to. So that all happened, man. And it was really tough. And we purposely did not want to tell anybody home. We didn't want to tell because DHS, we were foster parents. We didn't want them to think anything of it. We didn't want my employees to freak out about what was going on. But because my wife was trying to help transfer some money and stuff like that for the business, she had to talk to my bookkeeper, and somehow my bookkeeper may have mentioned this. Anyway, people found out. Well, we get back to work, and lo and behold, my foreman at that time, who is not with me anymore, he quits. He says, I gave my notice while you're gone. You did what? And I've done so much for this guy. And I thought to myself, I would never do that to you and your family. But he just felt really uneasy and shaky for the situation. He wanted to protect himself. So he left. And there again, it's like come from a really crappy, traumatic situation to a relief and then crappy. And I'm going, how much is enough, right?
Yeah.
So he quit. And that was tough because we had to figure out what was going to happen, how we're going to replace him because he was our heavy hitter for the shop. But we did, and we have, and that's good. But shortly after that, we were progressing through foster care. All this time is about 2 years into this. And we realized that we're not going to be able to adopt this baby girl that we've considered our daughter. And I mentioned to you that I didn't want to do this in the beginning. She became my daughter, man. She just became my daughter. I've got a tattoo that I just recently did on my chest, on my rib cage. By the way, don't ever get a tattoo on your rib cage. It hurts really bad. Of her name. And it's in devotion and dedication to her because she means so much to me. But she became my daughter. And when you have kids, you love them from conception. You love them when your wife starts getting a little baby bump. You love them. You proclaim your love. You're telling them you love them, holding the belly. They're birthed. You love them. You have this immediate love for your child. I didn't love this little baby girl when I first met her. I just thought, here we are, fulfilling a need. I'm going to help this person out for a little while, help this child out, and I'm going to go about my business. I still remember the day, guys, when I actually proclaimed my love to this child. And it's something unique because you don't do that normally. I remember holding her in the bedroom and I was rocking her to sleep. And I just said, I love you. And it was tough because I had to find that love and the hope and the prayer. And even today, the hope prayers that one day we can be reunited with her and be able to adopt her. But the hope was that we would be able to adopt her. But we quickly progressed through the foster care and DHS and things like that. And we realized this isn't happening. This mother is going to get her back. Now, this mother has 5 children now. At that time, she had 4 children, 3 of which she does not have any custody of. And the 4th being the one we're fostering. Her name is Zipporah. We call her Zoe. And we have custody of her through foster care. This person does not deserve to have this child, but she's doing what she needs to do to get her back. So we quickly realized this is not going to happen. And this is around the timeline that we met Kelsey. And as I told you guys, I told Kelsey that it wasn't going to be a good time for me because we were going to have to let her go. And we did. And I've never cried and had depression like I had during that time. I took 2 weeks off of work, had no intentions, no care to be even part of the shop. No care. I didn't care if it blew up. It was just so traumatic for me. I've never laid on my bed with a curdling cry, just uncontrollable. Your gut, your chest is collapsing and your mind can't comprehend anything. And my wife has never seen me like that. And she even said that I have taken it the hardest. And it was tough. It was tough to just accept that and to know that I can't control it. Guys, this was way tougher than that Mexican prison. This has been so much tougher than that prison. I'll take that prison any day than to lose a child. And for those of you that have actually literally lost a child, I'm so sorry because I only feel a portion of what that feels like. I cannot imagine what that is. But in the way I see it, I lost my kid. And so we had to give her up. And I couldn't help it but text this biological mom. I've never texted for the entire time for 2 years, but I had to text. I had to reach out. And I told her how I wanted to always be part of this child's life, how I'm her father. I want to be her father. Thankfully, it was a good process of bridging a gap, is what they say in DHS. And we bridged that gap a little bit. So we started creating this normal. And I thought to myself, perhaps this whole time it wasn't me taking care of this baby girl, but maybe it was helping this woman become a better person for herself. And then in turn, having an awesome relationship with this child. Mm. So I was re-normalizing everything in my head, trying to figure out the normal. And we felt like we were getting somewhere. And we were. Past tense. And And I haven't really shared this with you, Kelsey. So this is new, but about 7 weeks ago, this woman decided to accuse me of touching Zoe inappropriately. And I just couldn't believe it. I've tried to help her. I've tried to fix her car for free. I've tried to do all kinds of stuff to see that she has a better life. And she had a car problem that I couldn't cover. I wouldn't cover because I felt like I was enabling her. And then she comes out with this nonsense. She really revealed that to DHS, and she revealed that to the Light Horse Indian Police Force because she's considered Indian. And so they started an investigation on me. And this whole time, from the start of when we had to let our baby girl go to this trial reunification, we had court-ordered visitation. So it was mandated for us to see her every weekend. And then the woman, the biological mom, she was more apt to letting us see her. She was staying the night with us. We were having a great time. It was a little bit of a blessing of both sides. We had our freedom back. I know it sounds really bad, but we had the opportunity of being just me and my wife and my other kids. And then we had the opportunity of being able to spend time with this baby girl that was really precious and everything like that. So it was a little bit of it was a sweet spot. But because of these allegations, the court said we have to stop court-ordered visitation until this investigation is over. I didn't fault the court for that. I get it. If anybody's accused of anything like that, anyone should take it seriously. But it was just shocking to me, and it hurt that this woman would do that to us. And before she accused me of this, it was Mother's Day. We brought her over to our house, and Zoe was already with us. So we brought the mother over to our house. Let's hang out. You're a mother. My wife's been a mother to this child. Let's do Mother's Day together. And it was a good day. But through the day, apparently this woman told my wife, and I won't use the F word, but she used the F word. She said Zoe told her that she wants to F the boys, my 2 little boys. And we're just like, what are you talking about? This is crazy stuff. So I tell you that because sets the tone of how this woman thinks. And it's surprising that she accused me of this, but at the same time, it's not surprising. So all this meanwhile, my wife and I are having really tough discussions. And we're admitting that because of the way that this woman is, we probably need to completely disconnect ourselves from her. And in order to protect myself, protect my boys, and protect my family, as much as it hurts to not be part of that little baby girl's life, we have to completely remove ourselves from that woman. And if in the future we were able to have a relationship with this baby girl, Zoe, then great. But until then, we can't do this anymore. And last week was the final court date that I'll ever go to. And I had to hire an attorney. I was not going to get caught into something so ridiculous. But my attorney vocalized that we're done. And it hurts. It hurts, guys, because this is my baby girl. And it's really hard to come to terms with that because I have nothing but love for her. And I go to bed every day with a tear. It's very rare that I function a day without getting emotional. Yesterday, I was talking to a customer that's been with us for a long time, and we brought up a few subjects, and yeah, I got emotional, man. He's telling me I can cry in front of him. It's not about not crying in front of you. I need to get my composure, but it's daily that this happens. So if I were to sum up some things here, we have 8 years of really some traumatic situations. And then before those 8 years, we have a lot of me trying to figure out what in the world I'm doing in my life. And it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge to go through all these circumstances. And it's been a challenge to figure out what my purpose is. And I'll tell you that the last couple of years, I've really honed into what I feel my passion is. And my passion is this, because for a long time, I thought it's not cars. I really don't care about cars. I think they're cool and it's fun to go fast and hear the loud rumbling pipes and horsepower, but I don't really care. I'm good with my hands and I can pretty much work on anything, but I don't really care about that. I can sell ice to an Eskimo and sand to an Iraqi, but I don't really care about selling every single day. I'm very good at it, but I don't care. That's not my passion. I really like to help people. And so what I realized is this: I'm a dreamer. And I don't mean sit here and dream in the clouds or whatever, but I'm a dreamer of what I can create, develop, and create opportunity for other people. And that's what my passion is. And that's what I'm doing with this business. Because through all this trauma, through all this crazy stuff that we've been able to do or had to go through, we persevered. And we actually just started escrow on another shop purchase that will be hopefully completed in 30 days or so. And we'll be taking possession of that shop. So that'll be shop number 2. I was able to recently buy a bunch of real estate cash that I never would have been able to do before. My wife, she's been a stay-at-home mom for 17 and a half years. And through this process with losing our baby girl, Zoe, she felt like she had no purpose. And it was very timely, and God orchestrated this time. But we came across this little retail store, and she's starting this retail store. So we bought the inventory and doing all this stuff, and she's starting her own little business. And I'm super excited and happy and proud for her on that. And hopefully by the end of August, that'll commence. But I want to bring you in on one little thing about my marriage. It's been a battle, and we didn't even get into that discussion. I could talk for hours, but it's been a battle. And for those of you that may struggle in what I struggled with, I didn't find myself very proud of my wife. And that made it very difficult for me to love my wife. Okay. And there's a lot of circumstances that arose and that made our marriage challenged. But to be able to witness her become so excited about something independently and creating her own passion and kind of purpose in life, it has developed this, I'm trying to find the right word, but to where I'm so proud of her, it has developed my pride for her so much that is, wow, you're sexy. You know what I mean? Like, it has really made an impression on me, and I'm so proud of her for doing that. More importantly, that she was able to get out of that funk, that trauma, and persevere. And this is what we're about. The Hoage family, this is what we're about, is perseverance. And so now she's starting her little business, and I'm just supporting her in that. And it's been a great opportunity for there. At the end of all this, if I can say what it is, perseverance through trauma. Don't allow anything traumatic in your life to control you. Don't let it bring you down. You can get through it. We've gotten through it, and we're not even done. I'm 42 years old. My plan is to have 5 shops in the next 3 years. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get it done. And no matter if I go into a Mexican prison, I lose a child, my family member gets hurt, or whatever happens, employee almost dies, or whatever the case may be, I'm going to do it. And I'm really thankful to be able to share this with you, Kelsey. And I'm really thankful to be now working with you in your marketing efforts, and we're excited for the future. So hopefully that is a good summary of everything's going on.
I'm very appreciative to have this opportunity to be able to listen and hear your story, and just you being so raw and just real with
Sure.
here. And as people get to listen, and hopefully you are all still listening, because this has been amazing for me. And
a lot of time, but
yeah. And like this, I'm sure there's different, you went over so many different traumatic things I can't even imagine, but I'm sure at least one of those things, one of you owners out there, at least resonate a little bit, and just know
for sure
there is light at the other side. And then if we keep picking ourselves back up, keep moving forward, and there's so much that you can accomplish, and much that you already are accomplishing. And yeah, I am again so very appreciative, Matt. You did an amazing job here of being so real and communicating. I'm glad that I didn't break down. There was many times here today I was close. I know we've had conversations where
you did tell me you have your tissue ready.
Yeah, I got a tissue box ready, but I know we've had many where we've shared a few tears, but I'm appreciative again for your time today.
I know that a lot of us are entrepreneurs on this call, and I think that we all need to agree that our purpose is greater than just making money. It's greater than having vacations. It's greater than having stuff. It is providing opportunity for others. And those other people count on us. They count on us. So it's our job to persevere every single time. And I know a lot of people relate to the money side of things. 2 years ago, we got over $1 million. Last year was 1.275 million. We're on track for 1.5 plus adding the other shop. So I bring that into the subject matter because I realize that sometimes motivates some people. Even though we had to go through all this crap, we still are pursuing in the business.
Yep. Absolutely. All right. For those people that maybe want to reach out to you and maybe have a talk, or what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
Man, I'm transparent and I'm open anytime, any place. So I'm happy to give my cell phone number, and I can give up my email if you want me to do that.
Yeah. Then I'll probably facilitate it. I'll have, if you guys are interested, please reach out directly to me. Easiest way is probably Facebook message, honestly. And then if you want Matt's personal information, I'll be able to drop that there. We'll drop in the email, your email there in the description of this video so that people can find that there. But cell phone, I don't want just a bunch of people spamming you just in case that might happen. So if you do want Matt's cell phone as you guys interact, happy to be able to share that along the way. Again, thank you so much, Matt, for your time. For those of you that are here watching, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and we'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.
Cool. See you guys.